Welcome to the Friday vlog.
Welcome to the Friday vlog.
And today we're going to be talking about self-consciousness and how that can impact relationships. And
how it can impact all kinds of things.
Yes. And we were fortunate enough to have Leela Turner on our podcast. So the episode coming out on Monday is with Leela, and she was talking about how self-consciousness shows up in dating.
Yes.
But it sort of created an ongoing conversation between the two of us in terms of how self-consciousness can
You feeling self-conscious now?
Yes. How self-consciousness can show up in all different kinds of ways and have an impact on our relationship or on relationships. And one of the ways that it shows up in our relationship is that when you get self-conscious, you tend to get annoyed with me. And blame me.
It is. It's your fault. I guess that would be one of my major blind spots. I guess a perfect example is doing these vlogs. But I often feel tremendously self-conscious because my mind starts to go in the direction of what the people who watch these videos, I'm assuming they're watching it. It's part of me hopes they're not. But for those people that watch these videos, I'm wondering what they're thinking about me, and I'm jumping to all kinds of conclusions, which I know you're not supposed to do, about what they think. And then I start to feel embarrassed generally. And then that makes me feel resistant to doing these vlogs, so then I feel self-conscious. And that's on my worst days, which you'll probably say there are quite a few. But I realise it's all folly. I realise it's just my thinking, and I realise that that's me getting gripped by low mood thinking or conjuring up situations that haven't even happened yet and probably won't happen. Although I'm sure there are naysayers out there. But why should I worry about that?
Well, you're a naysayer. You're your own naysayer.
I am an advocate for the naysayers that are out there. There's a part of me that wants to wander around my head with my sandwich board saying, doom and despondency is just around the corner. The end is nigh. That's kind of where my mind goes.
Yeah.
It's almost become Pavlovian when I get in front of the camera and do these vlogs, that I start to sort of summon up that sort of image of someone watching this video and thinking, what an idiot. Who does he think he is?
What do they say about me in your head?
They're always very complimentary about you. I'm not concerned about you.
That's hilarious. So you have these little people in your head telling you that you're not good enough.
Yeah, I have these little trolls out there,
there,
hecklers who want to put me down.
Aww.
Yeah.
So that's conditioning, right?
Yeah, all programming and conditioning.
Yeah.
I've kind of I've led myself to believe this narrative over the years.
Yeah.
And I guess that this is my learning curve, unfortunately.
And in terms of relationships in general, because we know not everybody, although these days probably everybody is doing a video of some kind of themselves or a selfie.
I don't want to be one of those people who's always doing a video. It's always getting their camera out. I want to be one of those people.
You are.
I know. Under sufferance on some level.
So you get to be cool.
I want to be cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a preoccupation with self and how I'm presenting myself to the world.
Yes.
It doesn't feel very cool for me to be doing this.
I was never cool, so I don't care.
I don't think I ever was. I like to pretend I was. In the same way that I like to pretend there are people out there heckling me. It's all one glorious illusion.
You like to pretend you're cool and pretend to have hecklers?
I know. How do you get anywhere in life on that basis? You're constantly stuck in the twilight zone.
So, and this was the point that Leela was making in terms of dating, is that this kind of thing happens when people go on a date. They have their hecklers and they get really loud in their own mind, and there's a lot of self-consciousness, and then it's really hard when we identify with all of that thinking to be our natural self. And ultimately, when we show up as ourselves, when we are just not thinking about ourselves, then we tend to be able to converse and act normally.
What a concept.
And then what happens when we get self-conscious and all of that thinking is really loud, if we try to get rid of it, or if we try to or if we wish it wasn't there, it just magnifies it. And so the most important thing to understand is that it's normal, that we all have our conditioning and programming, we all have our hecklers, and we can all get gripped, and we can all get self-conscious. That actually isn't what makes it so difficult. It's when we start wrestling with it and trying to not be that way. And I know for myself, I used to really judge myself when I felt insecure. I felt like it meant something about me. I felt that I wasn't allowed to feel insecure, that I shouldn't feel insecure. And that would just get me into this wrestling match with my hecklers, and I would end up basically feeling worse and worse and worse. So if we can at least just realize, oh, I'm just caught up, I'm feeling self-conscious, it's okay, let's go with it and run with it, then it doesn't amplify the situation. And in some situations, if we're able to at least be transparent about it, like for example, if I was feeling nervous and
like when you went, yeah, earlier.
Yes, and you notice, like, are you feeling self-conscious? Like, yes, I am. Like, do I need to stop and start again because I did that? But it's like we can just be transparent about it sometimes, and that takes the pressure off. So rather than feeling that there's something wrong with us when we get self-conscious, feeling that we aren't allowed to have those feelings, it's just recognizing that they're normal, and when they're there, how are we going to be kind to ourselves? What's the best choice that we can make that's supportive? So if we're on a date, if I was on a date...
I hope you won't be needing to go on a date unless it's with me.
Yes, we could go on a date, but I might not be feeling that self-conscious with you. But we could even say, I'm feeling self-conscious. That probably would be an amazing icebreaker to speak. I'm not saying use this as a technique, but if it's authentic and genuine, that could be really endearing and allow for a lot of openness in the conversation. And whenever self-consciousness grips us, like maybe, Angus, you don't get self-conscious with me, but when you are self-conscious, you do have a tendency to try and take it out on me. So it doesn't really matter what stage we're in relationship, it tends to have a difficult toll on it.
Yeah, because I feeling the self-consciousness is just me generating discomfort. It's purely self-generated. And then I guess I do want to make you the fall guy. But I was also thinking about, I had another example of how that actually, that my worst fear is, I guess, to appear vulnerable on some level, that I'm going to, show up and be in my true and honest self. I'm going to flounder. And I remember...
Like I just did.
Yeah, well, no. But so what I wanted to say was that I remember that we did a training once upon a time where I think I was kind of like, what would you say? I was like the master of ceremony. I was kind of like, there was a panel.
You were the moderator for the panel.
Moderator, yes, that's the word I'd be looking for. So I was the moderator of the panel. And I felt kind of cocky at this point. I thought, well, I'm feeling quite confident about how I'm going to moderate things. And then as the people drifted in and the audience got to a scale and size that I had not been anticipating, I started to feel nervous. But instead of like owning up to those nerves, I just decided, I've got to be cool and slick, and kind of went into a sort of into a state where I was not present in the moment. I was trying to sort of regurgitate some cool line that I'd probably concocted in my head. And how awful to put yourself in a situation. I could never act because I would never be able to remember my lines. But in a sense, it's like, that for me was a performance. That's me trying to remember my lines in milliseconds. And then no wonder I'm feeling stressed. And ultimately, as a consequence of that, I don't think I did very well. And I don't think people don't really necessarily enjoy that. Me not doing very well is me not being present in the moment. Me not doing very well is actually feeling like I've got to follow some script that I've devised in my head. So I went through this experience, which was quite uncomfortable, to say the least, because I wasn't being authentic. And the first person on that panel, the first thing they said is, I feel so nervous. And started there. And then from that point, from that place of vulnerability and their willingness to be transparent and honest and show up in a very authentic way, she had them eating out of her hand within 2 minutes. And it was just, for me, was just such an incredible reference point to see. People just want to see honesty. And that, for me, is, in a sense, what Leela was pointing to about dates and connectability. Is that a word?
I don't know.
But connecting with someone else, connecting with another human being, and let's say in the example of a date, all the other party wants to see is your true and honest self. They don't want to see you run into some sort of script or feeling there's some sort of pretense, or that you've disappeared somewhere in your head and that you're overthinking the whole situation. What really we need to rely on is just this opportunity just to speak from our heart. And when I do that, and when I do that and do these social media stints, and I speak from that place, it feels like it's fun. It's always fun. Like I feel like I'm speaking from my heart now. It feels like fun. When I feel like I have to really try, when I'm trying too hard, it's me trying to sort of like, oh, I got to think of the right thing to say here. I don't want to have to, do a retake or whatever million things I have going on inside my head that are trying to sort of be those hecklers, those personal hecklers, that I can just ignore them. I can just show up and I can just see what shows up. See what shows up. See what shows up. And I don't have to worry about it. Who cares? It's like, it's fine. There's no one out there who's going to kill me.
You never know, but I hope not.
You never know.
But that's true for all relationship. That's true for life. If we can just simply relax and be ourselves and show up present in the moment, then we're connected with our own inner knowing, our own wisdom, our own common sense. We see what to do. We understand what's needed in the moment. We handle situations as they arise. We're able to connect and be present and listen to another person, whether it's on a date, whether it's after being married for 26 years or whatever, however long it is with us. It's like, it's all the same thing.
It is.
What's so funny?
I just thought it's a really stupid analogy.
What?
So when I was a student and I worked at Sainsbury's on the checkout, in those days you had to type in the numbers.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you had a barcode. You literally type in the numbers. It's like being a typist in a sense. Mm-hmm. So it got to the point...
With one hand, right?
With one hand. Yeah. Well, one hand, the right hand, then you're...
Scooping with the other, yeah.
You're scooping with the other. So at some point it became sort of subconscious. I got so good at it, I wasn't even having to think where I placed my fingers. But if I was to think about where I was going to place my fingers, it would be like this. It would be impossible.
Yeah.
You're trying to sort of rub your stomach and tap your head at the same time. Be one of those things. But my point being is that when we let go of the thinking and just trust that we have within our design the intelligence to we can just trust in the wisdom that will shine through. In the same way, it's like I think there's some wisdom in being able to do the checkout. If that's a good analogy, probably not. But there's something about letting go of the wheel, letting go of our thinking, feeling like we have to try too hard or think too hard, always messes things up. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something about just surrendering to the fact that we kind of know what to do. After a while, I knew how to sort of, to operate the till, thank you, without having to think what I'm doing with my fingers. But I don't know how I was able to do that. If I thought about how I was able to do that, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
That was my point.
Yeah.
I got there in the end.
And it's even okay to not be masterful at something. Like, let's say I am feeling self-conscious. If I can just be with that, I'll know what to do and how to handle that. It's when I just start to resist it and contract around it and fight it, that's when I really lose my bearings.
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about what I'm saying, I'm not probably saying anything of any value because I'm putting it through a constant filter and probably just putting myself in a situation where I'm just completely risk averse and don't want to say or do the wrong thing, which is I think what people do on dates. Mm-hmm. They're so kind of preoccupied with doing or saying the wrong thing, that ultimately they're not connecting. And I think that that's something to consider. That's a really beautiful thing to sort of start to develop a sense of awareness around.
Well, they're listening to the hecklers rather than being with the person that they're with.
So I guess this is like one big glorious coaching, self-coaching piece. So thank you for helping out.
One day you're going to stop listening to them.
One day.
So we're simply encouraging you not to listen to the hecklers in your head, instead to listen to your heart, to listen to your wisdom, to know that you are more than enough in your natural, beautiful self, and that is what people appreciate and want, and that's what the world needs.
That's it.
The
world needs love.
It does.
That's what the world needs.
Yes, that's what we all need.
Yeah.
And we are that.
We are.
We are the love.
We are the love.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.